All right, guys, welcome back to the Redemption Podcast. Listen, if you've been rocking with me this whole entire time, thank you so much for all the love and support. Thank you for liking the videos, the comments. They mean a lot to me. I've gotten back to every single person, so I want to tell you guys thank you. If you're new here, welcome. I hope that you find this content dope. I will tell you this is raw and uncut. My goal is to not show up perfectly, but to make sure that I'm doing the thing that I say I was going to do. And that's putting out this podcast, speaking on topics that I think men need to talk about, and creating a community where men can have these conversations about redemption. So with that being said, before I go into this, this channel, the really intention is that I hope that this kind of content, if it challenges you and you think about if it's helping you get sharper and helping you grow into focus, make sure you guys subscribe, because what I will tell you is that I'm going to continue working, I'm going to continue building. And even today, getting in this topic and really talking about this is a growth opportunity for me. This is an opportunity for me to put myself out there and do the things that I'm going to be talking about in this episode. So with that being said, today we're going to be talking about what hits capable men. And I think most men don't realize this, because what we're talking about today is why capable men self-sabotage. And it's wild, because it's not about weakness and it's not about laziness. And it's not that you need more discipline. It's something deeper than that. Have you ever noticed that you're fully capable and you've proven you can execute, and you stack wins, you've been balling, you've been doing your thing, you've been having a lot of success. But when things start to move, right when things start to move, right when momentum builds, you pull back. You delay that move that could change everything. And I'm saying this to you because you may not even notice it. You might not even notice that this actually happens. But when you start to put it in retrospect and you start thinking about it, you're probably doing this, right? What happens is that even when you're in a relationship, you create some kind of tension as soon as that relationship starts getting stable. It's you're okay, we're good. And then you go trip off of something that really is little, and then you create a problem. Or you skip the gym right after you had a PR, or maybe after you did something so consistent and you were like, oh man, I see my body changing. I feel stronger. I just lifted more. And then you skip the gym, right? And then you're sitting here thinking why do I do this? It's a good question. But here's what most men don't realize. This isn't self-destruction. It's protection. And once you understand that, it changes everything. And what's really happening here, and let me zoom in this for a second, because if you don't understand these mechanisms, you'll just keep blaming yourself. And let's break this down. Let me break this down simply. So the way this works is that your brain is wired for survival and not expansion and not fulfillment. It's really just survival. And survival means familiarity. And if you think about it, familiarity feels safe. But growth feels uncertain. It's stretching you, right? It's asking you to do something that is outside of what you normally do. That's not safe anymore. So what this does is that uncertainty triggers resistance. And so when you start stepping into this something bigger, more responsibility, more visibility, more pressure, your nervous system reads it as risk. And risk feels dangerous. So it tries to slow you down, not because you're broken, but because it thinks it's helping you. And so what happens is self-sabotage is often protection that has not been updated yet. Your system is trying to keep you in a range that it already understands. So even if that's even if it feels small. So when we start really thinking about what this does is that when you start thinking about how growth creates this pressure, sometimes it's you putting the pressure on you, and sometimes it's the situation that puts pressure on you. If you start thinking about it from growing in your career, your fitness growth, leadership growth, there's expectations, right? There's a lot of things that come up. And what I will tell you when you start to get this anxiety, maybe there's times where you start to feel that you get butterflies because now you're in a situation that you got to show up a certain way. And you're I'm not normally feeling like that, but that starts to happen. And then the thoughts that pop up is that maybe you're dealing with imposter syndrome. Maybe you're thinking you're comparing yourself and you're seeing other things and you're doing this to yourself. You're starting to think oh, okay, well, I need to do more, right? And then when you think about this, you start to shrink. Even the drive that you had starts to shrink because You're going to do this thing and step into the space that's uncertain, uncomfortable, unfamiliar. And because of that, maybe there's a level of confidence, although you're a confident person, it just maybe starts being tapped in and kind of making you feel a certain way. So when I tell you this, like, I'm saying this to you because I really want you guys to really think about this. And this is where it gets real. Now let's talk about how this actually shows up. And what I'm going to talk about is 4 ways that men self-sabotage themselves. And here's the thing. These patterns don't look dramatic. They look reasonable and they look logical. And in most cases, they look mature. And as I start to think about this and I have these conversations with people, these things that I'm talking about, they quietly stall growth. So here's the 4 most common patterns that men do to self-sabotage. This first one is bananas. And I can tell you right now, this one, when I talk about it, I got to own this, right? Perfection delay. This one sounds reasonable, right? We understand, you want things to be not perfect, but you're like, you have a certain expectation, right? What you'll say is, I just wanted to get it right. I just want to get it right, right? You're thinking about your new fitness journey. I just want to get it right. I don't want to fail again. I got to make sure I got it right. You're listening to all this stuff, right? Or you're like, I need one more detail. If I just get this one thing, right? I just get this one thing, we'll be good. Or you'll say, I'll start when everything lines up. And I think that sounds good because here's the truth. When you think about those things, they sound reasonable, but perfection is often fear dressed up as a standard. Let me say it again. Perfection is often fear dressed up as a standard. And here's the thing, like I talk about having standards. I talk about, what could happen. But if you start to really think about this is fear. You're using this standard as a way to make sure yourself and delaying the opportunity because you're waiting for this thing to be perfect instead of just going to do it. And so what you're doing right now is that you're not waiting to improve it. You're waiting for it to feel safe, and safe never comes. So you tweak it, you polish it up a little bit, you prepare, but you never launch. You never do the thing. You never take the step, like never. And so launching means you're being seen, and being seen means you're being judged. So you stay in preparation mode. You just do. You're just like, I'm gonna keep working on this, and it feels productive, but it's protection. If I'm being real, that's what it is. And so when you start thinking about this, when I think about it from in business, right? You're sitting here, you're thinking, you're going, I know that the thing that I'm solving or the business I'm starting or this new thing that we're going to go out here, you're thinking about it. You're like, oh man, I got this great idea. And then boom, you got it, right? Then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do it this way. Well, you know what? I seen this person's do. I'm going to do this, and that. And I'm going to continue staying in this space. I'm going to spend, hey, I get up in the morning, I focus on this. I'm spending a couple hours on that. I'm prioritizing. And you just continue doing all this polishing and preparing and polishing and preparing. And it never happens. And you tell people, oh man, I'm going to start this thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be this person. I'm going to offer this product. I'm going to offer these courses. I'm going to coach. If it's fitness, you're like, you're looking at things being like, oh, okay, man, I gotta meal prep first. And once I get my meal prep down, I gotta get my supplements right. And I gotta get the right workout. And then you keep doing all this stuff, but you don't have anything done. You're not moving. And what's happening is you feel protected, but you feel productive because you're figuring all these things out, but you're never doing the work. Never happens. Right. Or you do it, but it's kind of light. It never really goes off the way you want it. So I will say this, even for me doing this, like this is a great example, doing the Redemption podcast. I said a year ago that I was going to do this. And I can tell you right now, the one thing I can tell you, the most honest thing I can say is that part of it was like, if I'm going to be talking about men, all the work, all the things I've worked on, like I need to make sure that I got certain things together. And I was like, I'm going to do that. But what happened was I also was thinking about like, what is my message? Is redemption, are people going to understand that? Is that the right terminology to use? Because when I started doing all this before, I used to say, my business was called Committed to Success. And it was the word committed, the number 2, to success. And I remember people like, what do you do? And I did a lot of public speaking and a lot of motivational speaking, stuff like that. And I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I can tell you right now, when I thought about doing Redemption Podcast, I was going back to that and being like, I don't want people to question what it is. My business is called Fit Boss. It used to be called Committed Mindset. Like, again, back to the committed thing. And guess what? All those iterations of things got me to this. I was like, what is it? Well, Fit Boss. Well, why is it called Fit Boss? Well, it's literally thinking about people who are leaders, men, people who are leaders, high performers, and being a boss, and are they fit? Like, not just the fact, can you do your job, but are you taking care of yourself? Are you a self-leader? And so it's not about me. Yeah, you can say and be like, oh, you're an example of a fit boss. Yes, but that's the other thing. It's easy for you to recognize. So when I did all this, I did all that thinking. And the thing that I was so afraid of even to do this podcast was to make sure that I did it right. And I was popping and I was like getting the edit and I was going to figure out who's going to edit and do B-roll and all. I'm like, no, we're not doing that kind of stuff. And then when I was even thinking about it, I was like, I don't want to sit here and talk about macros all day. All that stuff I talk about anyway. But is that really what people want to come on to YouTube and listen to? So I really was like, I'm about be about this life. And I'm going to go and say, I'm going to do this podcast, not only because I was trying to be perfect, but to do it with no edit. So if you watch any of my videos, there's no edits. I don't do that. There's even a video where the guest I had on got out with his computer and walked around. And I left that thing there because I'm just going to rock with it. It's more important about the content. It's more important about doing the thing, right? 80% done is better than never doing it. So I'm going to say this, one of the things I will tell you is that this is why perfection delays feel responsible, and it keeps you stuck. And that's something I think you really got to think about. Now, let's get to the second one. This one's deeper. This isn't tactical. It's identity level. It's identity level. Okay. So identity conflict, excuse me. The next level version of you does not fit everywhere you currently fit. So, excuse me, success changes dynamics and people respond to you differently, expectations shift. And the part of you wonders, if I grow, do I still belong? Do I outgrow certain rooms, people, right? Do I lose connections? Sometimes playing small feels safer than risking isolation. And so unconsciously, you stay in this range that keeps you accepted. Like, that's hard, man. Like I can tell you right now that there are brothers or guys around me that I see this happening, right? And I will tell you this before I go any further. There's this thing about telling yourself a story, especially as we grow and become men, right? Like, I think once you recognize something in your life and you realize it's something that may be a challenge, it's on you to go get it fixed, right? And I will say this just as a caveat to that point, is that when you may have not had the male figure in your life, maybe, something happened to you and you never got the apology that you're looking for. I'm going to tell you, you're just as responsible as the other person, the person who did that thing to you, because the reality is like, who knows if they're even thinking about it? And the reality is you're holding on to it. So I just want to say that. I don't want to go on a different tangent here, but the point I'm trying to make is that the rooms are going to change. And when I see people in a situation where they stay in this range that keeps them accepted, this is called identity conflict. And so it's not incompetence. It's just fear of disconnecting. And to be real honest with you, when you start to level up, your relationships start to shift. Like, what I realize around me is that a lot of people, either there's two things. Either I hear less from you, I hear more from you in a way because you're recognizing how I'm showing up, or there's an influence there where, there's an opportunity. But what I realize is that I've lost some people that I'm not connected to. I still love them. And if they come back in my life or they want to, cool. But I've had to accept the fact that, like the primary one is like going from a single guy to a married man. I've been with my wife for 17 years. Like, there's certain things that you do single that you can't hang out with single dudes anymore. And so you're like, they're still your friends. They're still your homies. You could, go work out together, play basketball, go golf, whatever you're doing. But the reality is that it shifts because you're whole, like you're growing, right? I'll tell you this, even when that happened, I'm married. A lot of my friends may not be married. I got a lot of married friends now, but years ago, Then at the same time, I sat here and I was like, working for someone and having a job was great, but I was like, man, I feel like I'm stalling my growth. And I was like, I want to do this thing on my own. And so what I started to focus on was leadership. And when I started to acquire leadership, meaning I took advantage and took initiative of that, it started feeling lonely. I think about the stories in the Bible, and I think about like when God wants to talk to, Abraham or Moses, the different men in the Bible, they isolate them. And I started to accept that because what it did is that things got loud. I heard God clearer. And then what I also realized in that same situation was like, I started getting clarity. And then the people that needed to be in my life had space, right? I started to realize I can be more focused, but it does feel lonely. And even as you're climbing, even if you're someone who says, you want to be more successful in your career, even if you're someone who says you want to be healthier, right? Your group of people that want to go out and drink every day and have beer and, smoke and do all that kind of stuff, whatever the thing is, they don't have any standards when it comes to the way they eat. When you start to do the things right, like you're saying, hey man, like, hey, we're going to go out to happy hour. Hey, we're going to, go to this restaurant that you like you may be like, yeah, bro, I brought my food. Or you may say, you know what, like I'm focused right now. I'm working on eating better. Well, guess what happens? You start getting isolated. You start feeling lonely, and that loneliness may not feel good. But I'm going to tell you right now, sit in it. Because what you're doing is you're outgrowing the environment you're in. I felt that. And to be honest with you, there's a little bit of acceptance. There's a little bit of like challenges to come with that. And even to this day, you may even say some stuff like, man, where are my friends? Like you'll see people having a great time. And you'll be like, man, I need some better friends. No, you don't. Because what I realize is just like anything else. When you think about the person who is holding on to something and having that scarcity mindset, it's because when you don't let go of those people, there's probably space in your life where there's a person, people, or an environment that you need, but because you keep holding on to this one, you can never get it. You can never receive the new people, the new environment, that situation. And so I will tell you, for me, this has been one of the biggest growth things that have happened in my life. This is not to say anything about anyone that I may not be associated, but I allowed that and I'm okay with that because I realize what the blessing is behind it. And that's what I'm kind of sharing with you guys today, because when we start thinking about this is why some men don't self-sabotage, they sabotage separation. So I think the thing is like you will destroy this next level of yourself because you're still wanting to hold on to what that environment was, those people. It's not about doing anything dramatic. It's not like you got to go and be like, I'm breaking up with you. Like we're men, we don't do that. But the reality is like you got to just be okay with the fact that the new version of yourself requires you to be a different person, and that environment is not suitable for you. It's not actually benefiting and helping you grow. Just be comfortable with the changes that are happening and watch what blessings come after that. It does feel quiet, but trust it. Okay. So let's talk about the third thing. And this one is sneaky because it hides behind intelligence. It's comfort disguised as logic. So you're smart. Every guy I talk to is smart. Your excuses are smart too. And you say stuff like, this isn't the right season. Okay. I need more stability first. And that makes sense. Right. And you say, I'm a realist. Let's be realistic about it, right? So on the surface, that sounds like it's mature, but underneath that, it's discomfort. You're not analyzing risk, you're avoiding it. And logic becomes a shield. Like, and here's the thing, like, really think about what I'm saying. Like, I hope that if you're listening to this, like maybe listen to it more than once so you can catch these things that I'm saying. Because you hide behind it. Like this logic, it makes sense to you. But at the end of the day, you call it strategy because it's protection wearing a suit. It's like literally like it's like undercover. You think that you're doing something that's good for you. And you really think that when it comes behind this logic that you're talking about, it's really comfort. Like you just don't want to change, but you're so smart that even what you tell yourself, it's convincing because you're smart. Like take some credit. You're a smart guy. Take some credit, but then realize what you're doing. Okay. When you start talking about like overthinking stuff, you're smart. You're like, oh yeah, I'm the way I think on a deeper level. Well, that's probably keeping you stuck and it's probably keeping you in the comfort zone. Right. And then you're sitting here like, you just want to get things figured out. You need some clarity. To be honest with you, I think that's so important. But how much clarity are you waiting to get? Like, do you need to see the whole staircase to take the next step? So when you start thinking about this, you're doing things and you're strategically delaying yourself. And what I want to tell you, because you're a high performer, is like, take a look at the stuff, how you execute. Like, I said to myself the other day, like in career work where I'm solving problems and there's cross-functional conversations and things you have to solve for. Like, you got to get the right people. You got to understand what the problem is, what really needs to happen, and what do you need to pay your focus your attention on. Well, look, when you go do the fitness thing, or you go do the next career move, or you're doing for your business, like, approach that thing, like, put yourself, say, hey, here's the focus points, and this is what I need to do, and I need to do it by this time, and get it done. Stop delaying this stuff. And I'm telling you, from a high performer standpoint, it's like you're also doing things, like, you're probably doing all these small things that are great, but they're not creating impact. And that's the thing. That's probably the thing I'm trying to communicate right now. It's like, you're doing all this stuff, and at the end of the day, logically, you're talking yourself out and avoiding the stuff that makes the bigger impact. You may do it in your career job. You've probably done it over and over again, but personally, you're sabotaging yourself, self-sabotaging yourself because of this. So sometimes the smartest guy in the room is just the most protected guy in the room, right? You got all the answers. You could solve for everything. But the reality is like, don't allow that to be yourself. So, and the fourth one, this is the one I think quietly wrecks momentum, and it's emotional avoidance. Excuse me. You quit right before completion. And I'll be honest with you, like, what we say about that is, like, when you start to work towards something and you're doing all the work and you're talking about it and you're feeling all good, and then you get to the point where, like, it's just, you got to do one more. Two things trick you. You talk yourself and act like you finished it when you haven't finished it yet. So you have this fake feeling of completion, but you didn't. And then the reality is that the next thing you need to do, it's probably the thing you've been delaying the whole time, procrastinating on or avoiding, and you got to do it, right? But that's the kind of thing, like, you quit right before the completion, or you pull back when intimacy starts to get real. And you fellas that are listening to this, I really feel for you, bro, because really when it comes down to it, that's huge, and then you shift your focus right before the breakthrough. And why do you do that? Because finishing requires ownership, and ownership requires vulnerability. And what does vulnerability do? Vulnerability is uncomfortable. Like, guys don't like that. And I think, to be honest with you, it's a strength. Like, some people say, oh, men don't cry, or men don't do this. We don't share that. Like, to me, I think, like, the way you do it, especially when you are honest and truth about it, and it's like you're showing that real thing, that real vulnerability, that's strength to me, right? So when I talk about, vulnerability is uncomfortable, so you sit with it and you distract. You work more, you scroll more, you numb more. You do things to, like, keep yourself away from it, and it's delaying these things. It's literally avoiding the emotion of completion. It's not allowed, like, you're just doing things, doing stuff, right? This can also be categorized as procrastination. Like, I talked about doing, in another episode, talked about doing difficult things, which are the things that are difficult for you to do, but have the biggest impact. But you do the things that are difficult easy, which means they're easy for you, but they don't have much impact. And so you're doing anything to avoid what growth is demanding from you. And if I say this, when we're talking about men, like, a lot of times we don't have conversations where we talk about our feelings. We avoid our feelings amongst each other. And that's another reason why I've created the Redemption Podcast, is so we can have these conversations. There are times that people commented in the comments, and I can see it, in my groups, in the groups that I have. It's important to have that space. But when we talk about it, it's like, even when you're thinking about your work, you might need help. You might be something you don't know, and you're a high performer, but you just escape from it. Or in your relationship or in a situation, you're like, man, I'm working 10, 12 hours a day. I can't do this. I can't do that, because you're avoiding the real thing. You're avoiding, like, fully committing. And I'll be honest with you, like, in the relationship, fellas, like, and you're in that situation, work on that, because it's also a sign of allowing you to lose the completion protection that God gives for you. Like, it's not the girlfriend. It's the alignment that you get, especially when the woman that you're in is going to be what God is out for you. Like, don't miss out on that, right? And I'll tell you, like, being married, one of the things that my wife says a lot about me, she's like, you do a really good job communicating. And I talk to her about everything. And there's times where, like, I question if I should say certain things to her because, I don't want to worry her. I don't want her to feel like I don't have it figured out, because that's the last thing I want to do. But when I'm vulnerable and I talk about things that are challenging me, she sees certain things, but when I communicate it, she knows I'm aware of it. And it also allows me to be able to feel comfortable being able to, like, say, okay, I'm working on this. And then, some of the accountability is like doing the thing that I need to work on, and she's seeing it. And in a way that helps. Right. And I think, when I really think about this, that really has been some of the biggest lessons I've learned about vulnerability. Even when I do coaching, it's about the client, but because I've learned to have this level of vulnerability, it allows me to have a better level of empathy, right? Because if I'm not sharing the things and I'm not experiencing things, I've been through some challenging times, and everybody has their own challenges, right? I will tell you that probably the most important thing here is that people tend to, or men, excuse me, we tend to avoid those things, and you miss out on what the power that comes from it. So I take this moment a little seriously, because, the reality is like, if you're avoiding those feelings and you're suffering in silence and you're rotting from the inside because you're not willing to speak up, be in a room, like, I hope that this podcast is helping you, encouraging you to do that. But I also hope, as I build out this community, that you be a part of it, and this be an opportunity for you to see that real men struggle, but real men are honest and have the courage and the strength to talk about those things and then work on them. So this is what I want to tell you. When it comes down to it, when we talk about avoiding the emotion, that's why staying busy can sometimes be the biggest distraction for becoming better. Busy, just doing stuff, right? I will tell you, the other day, I have a lot of stuff going on, and I'm really blessed about it. But I realized that I had so many things to do, and I was like sitting here like, oh, what am I going to do? And I had to tell myself, stop what you're doing. Like, I actually just stopped working. I was like, you're working, stop working. Because there was nothing I was going to do. I had so many things in my mind, and I was busy. I was trying to do this, and the thing I was avoiding, which, to be honest with you guys, like, it's a big deal. There's a lot of work that has to be done. So what I said to myself was like, I need to go and sit back. And the thing I did is I time blocked, planned, and that's when I moved on. And I wouldn't spend time with my wife. So that being said, here's the shift. Here's the part that matters. How do you break this? Not with aggression, not with yelling at yourself, and not with more discipline. You already have the discipline. You break it with awareness. Instead of asking, why do I mess this up? Or why do I keep messing this up? Ask yourself this. What am I protecting myself from right now? Ask yourself that. This question changes everything, because now you're not attacking yourself, you're leading yourself. Think about that question. What am I protecting myself from right now? Leadership starts internally. And I will tell you, the changes, the transformations that you see on the outside and doing start internally. But I want you to do this. I want you to notice the hesitation. Notice the excuses, the stories you're telling yourself, that flinch, the thing that keeps you back, the thing that you keep flinching for, and then choose differently. Because when we think about this, and I'm telling you, when I say choose differently, deliberately, like every week, ask yourself this: why or where did I hesitate? What story did I tell myself? And what would the next version of myself have done? What would you do? And this is no shame. There's like just clarity. And I believe clarity builds awareness, and awareness builds control. Control builds growth. So even in that same thing is, when you think about these reflections and we ask these questions, I'm going to tell you again, we ask these questions is, where did I hesitate? What story did I tell myself? And what would the next version of me have done? What would you have done? I think that's a really good exercise to do in reflection. Because number one, it's like, where you are today, what are the problem? And then when you say, if I fix all these things, if I lose the 40 pounds, or if I build a habit, or I'm training and I'm able to see sustainable changes, when you become the person that does that, what would they do? What would they think? How would they show up? How confident would they feel? And because you do that, start being that. And I think when you start to realize stories are the things that could just completely catalyze all your success, because you're like, oh yeah, it sounds good too, right? Like, yeah, I got to take the kids here, and I got to, my wife, I need to help my wife. We're busy, between commuting, we got to share different time and all that kind of stuff. You're saying all that, but there's no solution. So you're just going to keep doing that. Like, it's never, like, there's no other way. But because you keep logically communicating these things to yourself and to other people and telling yourself the story, you stay exactly where you're at. And so what I'm telling you about is getting into an audit. Like, you literally need to look at these things. I would, first of all, focus on the one thing that's focused on yourself. I think sometimes the self-audit about things that you need to do for you. Like, you need to become like so focused on yourself that you can really start to make these changes. And this is not saying that like you forget your wife or your kids, but make the time. Every time you make the excuses about the things that you can't do because of all the things you got to keep you busy or whatever you're doing, you're just delaying stuff and you're not being really honest with yourself. And so that's important. And I think the framework behind this is realizing like you need to pull yourself aside and realize who's important. And I think that when you think about other people first, although that's honorable and everything else, they need you. So if they're important to you because you're provider, your protector, fellas, like, you need to make sure you're good. You showing up every day healthier, you showing up, showing that you're disciplined, you showing your family that you can make change, or you can show family that the thing that you've been struggling with the most, you've been able to overcome it day by day, week by week, month by month, and then become someone that they see make those transitions. And I guarantee not only will you feel better, you'll start showing up in a way that your family's going to even respect you and love you even more because they see how much you're taking care of yourself, because they're going to depend on you. You don't want to be in that on the other way around. So this is what I'll say. This is how you shift from self-criticism to self-leadership. Okay. Literally by asking yourself these questions, making sure that you have the questions and making sure you're doing reflection. I'm telling you to do this. Will you do it? That's the question. Will you take the time? Will you become the man that you should be by making sure you do these things and stop self-sabotaging yourself? This isn't to go, yeah, man, Z, you're right, man. I'm doing that. But what are you going to do with it, bro? Like, how is it going to change? So this is what I say. The wall that you keep hitting is not your limit. It is the edge of your comfort zone. And the tension you feel, that's expansion trying to happen. And let it happen. Your sabotage isn't proof of that you're incapable. It's proof that you're stretching. So instead of fighting yourself, understand yourself, okay? And thank your nervous system for trying to protect you, and then calmly just step forward anyway. Because the thing is like, it's going to be that way. I've always said you got to live with the fear of failure, and that's just understanding it's going to be there. Because here's the thing. Growth doesn't require aggression. It requires awareness and leadership. So here's the thing, guys. I really hope that the conversation we had today, it's hitting home. And I will tell you, if this hits you, sit with it. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, because I think what we're doing here, like, we're building a community of men, and I want to make sure that you guys are benefiting from this. And by the way, in the comments, like, if you're feeling this, give me some love. I know it's later in the episode, but I just want to make sure that you guys know, like, my ears to the ground. I'm listening to what you guys are talking about. And I will say this, this community is for men here who don't run from pressure. Don't run from pressure. Like, you already have been doing amazing things. And if you're on the cusp of doing that amazing thing, like, rock with me. Like, we don't run from pressure. We grow through it. And I've got some exciting things I'll tell you right now that are coming up soon. I'm going to talk to you guys. I got some new resources. I got some new structure, things that are on the way, for more ways to plug into my community. I think the most important thing is that if you're serious about leveling up, stay close. There's more details that come from that, but I appreciate you guys being here. Keep growing, keep leading, and I'll see you guys on the next episode, because here's the last part I'll say. When I thought about this podcast, and I'll end with this, I've talked to multiple men, and the one thing they'll say is like one of two things, especially in the gym. I got to get my diet together. Get my diet together. Okay. I'm fasting. I'm older. I don't do as much. Like all these stories. And I'm going to tell you right now is that I hope what you took away from this episode today is like, you're more than capable. Do not let this continue to happen in your life. Be intentional about it, right? Make the changes that you need. And I will tell you this, guys, I will continue to show up, and I'll continue to provoke you and do all the things. I hope that we can continue to build this relationship, build this channel. At the end of the day, start really making an impact in this community. Because I know as men, we need this. That like the world has been trying to demasculate us for so long. But the reality is that this is an opportunity for me to talk about things that I think really make a difference and really make a change. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you again for rocking with me. Don't forget to subscribe and keep coming, man. I appreciate you guys. Much love. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.